June 28, 1914. After surviving a morning bomb attack, the Austro-Hungarian prince cancels his public itinerary. But on the way to the hospital, his driver mistakenly turns down a narrow cobblestone street in Sarajevo. Stuck in gear, the car idles exactly 5 feet away from a 19-year-old revolutionary named Gavrilo Princip. He draws a pistol and fires twice. This moment triggered a cascade. It began a war that would eventually claim 20 million lives and leave 4 ancient, continent-spanning empires wiped from the map. It poses the ultimate time traveler question. If you go back to that morning and stop that car from taking a wrong turn, do you prevent World War I? The reality is, saving the prince wouldn't have stopped the fighting. Gavrilo Princip was just a matchstick. Europe's leaders had spent the last 40 years building a mountain of dynamite. In 1914, the Austro-Hungarian Empire aggressively pushed south into the Balkans, absorbing Bosnia. This triggered fierce, organized resistance from Slavic nationalists who wanted their own independent nation. This expansion panicked the Russian Empire, who positioned itself as the protector of the Slavic people, but they fundamentally needed control over the critical southern waterways connecting the Black Sea to the Mediterranean. To secure their borders, the 6 great European powers began aggressively stockpiling weapons. In 1870, their combined military spending sat at £94 million. By 1914, that number quadrupled. Money flowed into industrial killing machines. They built mechanized machine guns, stealth submarines, and massive armored warships with guns that could level cities from miles offshore. The public had no idea how lethal these weapons were. State-sponsored newspapers and official poets actively glorified combat, selling military service as a noble, gentlemanly adventure. So by the summer of 1914, Europe was heavily armed and highly radicalized. Its imperial monarchs were sitting on massive new war machines, waiting for an excuse to turn them on. They ensured that any localized fight would drag everyone in. The continent was split by secret treaties into 2 camps: the Triple Entente of Britain, France, and Russia, and the Triple Alliance of Germany, Austro-Hungary, and Italy. When Austro-Hungary issued an impossible ultimatum to Serbia, these treaties activated. Russia automatically mobilized its army to defend the Serbs, marching hundreds of thousands of troops westward. Trapped between Russia and France, Germany responded with a pre-calculated maneuver called the Schlieffen Plan. Instead of attacking the fortified French border, German forces carved a path straight through neutral Belgium, hooking south to crush Paris. But that specific tactical decision to invade Belgium triggered a decades-old treaty, legally forcing the British Empire to declare war on Germany. Within a matter of weeks, these rigid, automated obligations locked the continent into a collision course, escalating a regional political dispute into an inescapable detonation. The volunteers who expected a quick, heroic victory instead found themselves frozen on the Western Front. Armies dug hundreds of miles of trenches, trapping millions of men in a muddy, crater-pocked stalemate. As the death toll climbed, European empires drained their global colonies for manpower. Hundreds of thousands of Indian and African subjects were shipped across the world, fighting for European geopolitics they had absolutely no stake in. The combatants themselves often had no personal hatred for one another. During the winter of 1914, British and German soldiers actually climbed out of their trenches to celebrate Christmas together, exchanging food and singing, before their commanders threatened them with execution if they didn't resume shooting. The stalemate pushed nations to desperate measures. Germany deployed a fleet of U-boats with orders to sink civilian and merchant targets, an escalation that ultimately pulled the United States military into the conflict. The global conflict evolved into a mechanized war of attrition, an industrial system that indiscriminately destroyed an entire generation. By the time the guns fell silent in November 1918, the map of the world had to be redrawn. The old emperors were gone, their territories fractured into newly independent nations. The victorious powers gathered to draft the Treaty of Versailles. They placed the financial burden of the devastation exclusively onto Germany, levying billions of dollars in crippling reparations designed to humiliate the nation and break its economy. Just weeks before that peace was signed, a British soldier named Henry Tandy was fighting in the fog of the Western Front. A wounded, defenseless German soldier stumbled directly into his line of sight. Tandy aimed his rifle, but chose to lower the barrel, letting the man walk away. That wounded soldier was Adolf Hitler. They called this the war to end all wars. But the bitter terms of its surrender didn't dismantle the powder keg. They just packed the explosive powder tighter, waiting for the next spark.